Hello, my name is Jan Buethe. Welcome to my presentation of the paper Lays, a lightweight causal model for enhancing coded speech through adaptive convolutions. The task at hand is to enhance coded speech, and we want to do it in a way that's both practical and compatible with modern codecs, where the speech codec is usually just one of many embedded coding modes. This leads to a couple of constraints. For practicality, we want low complexity, and for compatibility, we want no added delay, and we want the method to be approximately phase-preserving. Speech coding enhancement is by no means new, and there are both classical and DNN-based methods, but they both have their drawbacks. Classical methods have the advantage that they have low complexity and they are usually causal, but they are also of very limited effectiveness. DNN-based methods, on the other hand, are highly effective, but they are either very complex or they add delay, and very often they actually do both. So our proposed solution is to use a hybrid approach. That is, we mix DNNs with classical adaptive filtering. Now, before we go into details, let me give you a short demonstration what coding artifacts actually sound like.
I had been born, I had been born, I had been born, I had been born, I had been born.
Well, that wasn't so bad. If you are wearing good headphones, you will probably have noticed that the signal gets noisier when the bitrate goes down, but all in all, it's still tolerable. But let's see what happens if we go below the recommended bitrate range.
I had been born, I had been born, I had been born, I had been born.
Okay, so that was quite bad. The speech is still intelligible, but it's also quite unpleasant to listen to, and this is what we intend to fix. The classical approach to speech coding enhancement is to use adaptive linear postfilters to reduce the noisiness of the signal. And there are two different methods that are used in conjunction. The first one is format enhancement, and this aims at attenuating noise in spectral valleys. It uses a postfilter that's calculated from the short-term prediction filter of the codec, and you can see an example down here below. In blue, you see the spectrum of the original signal. In red, you see the LPC spectrum, that is the spectral envelope that's encoded in the short-term prediction filter. And in black, you see the frequency response of the postfilter. And you see in regions where the energy is high, it amplifies the signal. In regions where the energy is low, it attenuates it. Pitch enhancement, on the other hand, is only relevant for voice frames, and it does a fine-grained spectral shaping. That is, it aims at attenuating noise between harmonics. It also uses a linear filter that's calculated directly from the pitch lag. And down here you see an example of the frequency response. So as you can see, it has a comb filter characteristic, and it amplifies the signal at harmonics and attenuates it in between, thus removing interharmonic noise. So one way of looking at this complete construct is the following. We do have a parametric model, parameters alpha, beta, g, gamma, and lambda, that takes data as input, this short-term prediction filter, pitch lag p, and it outputs linear filters. And the obvious thing for us to do is to replace this very simplistic 5-parameter model with a more sophisticated DNN. And this is what we get. So on the left, you see the Lays model. On the right-hand side, you see the signal path. Y is the coded distorted speech. It goes through 3 different adaptive filtering stages to produce the enhanced output signal Y hat of t. These individual filter stages, these are really just one-dimensional convolutions with a single input channel and a single output channel, but the kernel varies over time. And the kernels of these adaptive convolutions are calculated from latent feature vectors, which are produced by a feature encoder from data derived from the speech decoder. I will give you a quick demonstration how this looks, what this looks like in action. So on the right side below, you see this abstract latent feature vector, and above you will see the impulse responses and the frequency responses of the individual filtering stages. Okay, so LACE is in principle a convolutional model, but it's important to point out that it's very different compared to classical convolutional models. For classical convolutional models, the kernels are fixed. They are fitted once during training and then they remain constant in inference. And this means that in a classical convolutional model, you need a lot of hidden channels and you need nonlinearities in order to have the model learn to do something non-trivial. And this in turn leads to a large model size and high complexity. And this is what we save by making the filter kernels adaptive. Now, since we don't have any nonlinearities in the signal path, LACE is really a completely linear model. And another way of analyzing what it does is to look at the complete combined frequency response, and this is what I will show you next.
I had been born.
Okay, so as you can see, it does both cause spectral shaping, and whenever there is pitch present, you see this comb filtering characteristic that removes interharmonic noise. And finally, let's have a look what it does to our distorted Opus signal.
I had been born. I had been born. I had been born. I had been born.
Okay, it's not perfect, but it's quite an improvement. And most importantly, it's not unpleasant to listen to anymore. For a complete quality evaluation, we conducted the P808 listening test. We used 4 conditions. The baseline is plain Opus. As a benchmark, we identified the best causal DNN-based model. That's called TDCNN here. As another reference point, we included the LPCnet resynthesis method that has been applied to enhance Opus at 6 kilobits per second before. I have to point out that it does not satisfy any of our constraint. It's non-causal. It is of high complexity, 3 gigaflops, and it's not phase preserving, but it's still an interesting reference point to see to what quality we can get. And finally, we have, of course, LACE. And as you can see on the right-hand side, LACE always improves the baseline significantly. You can also see that it gives a huge improvement compared to the TDCNN method, and it achieves about 60% of the quality gain of the LPCnet resynthesis method. So to sum up, we introduced the linear adaptive coding enhancer. It has a novel architecture, single channel adaptive convolutions with time varying coefficients. With 300K parameters and a complexity of 100 megaflops, it's very lightweight. And in terms of quality, we showed that it significantly improves the Opus codec at 6, 9, and 12 kilobits per second. It largely outperforms the state-of-the-art causal model, and it achieves about 60% quality gain of the non-causal LPCnet resynthesis model. Finally, because of our additional constraints of adding 0 delay and of being approximately phase preserving, we can use this as a plug-in solution. So even if the speech coder is embedded into a larger coding structure, which is the case for Opus or EVS, we can still apply LACE as an enhancer in place without hurting the integrity of the entire system. Finally, I'd like to give you some more resources. The LACE paper is also available on the archive. If you want to listen to more demo samples, then there's a demo page. Quite recently, we also released model code in the Opus repository. That link is not in the paper. And if you found this interesting, then I would like to point out that there is already a successor model, no LACE, that's available on the archive. Well, that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me. And thank you very much for your interest, and goodbye.